Okay, so a very important point here, and a concept, I think we've talked about in other parts of this course. But the authors emphasize that it's very important to rule out other um, other conditions that may involve psychosis before we get to schizophrenia. Um, and that's been my own experience too. That something that oftentimes clinicians and treatment teams are a little too quick to um, to say, hey, we think this is schizophrenia. And I think, just personal opinion, I think some of that comes from a lack of sort of forgetting of what a profound diagnosis, what we're saying to someone. Much like giving someone a diagnosis of a neurocognitive disorder, where we're saying, hey, you have this disease in which you're not going to get better. You're going to, talking about neurocognitive diseases like Alzheimer's, you have a disease and you're going to get steadily worse um, until you die. But there won't be any going back to the way it was before. And schizophrenia, while there isn't the degenerative aspect to it, schizophrenia, even without treatment, doesn't necessarily get worse per se or degenerate in the way a disease like Alzheimer's or Lewy bodies would. Um, it does, even with treatment, typically mean that a person is not going to return to a pre illness baseline. Um, they're not likely going to um, go back and complete higher education or work in an office environment, um, or uh, there are some pursuits that they just won't be able to do. They won't be able to return to, and independent living, even independent living may be is often out of reach for people with schizophrenia. So I think we have to be very careful, and make sure we've really done thorough ruling out before we, the term schizophrenia passes through our lips to a client or a client and a client's family and or a client's family. So just a thought on that. The other thing, just a touch on schizotypical schizotypal personality disorder, defined as a pervasive pattern of social interpersonal deficits. So a lot of the negative symptoms, some of the hallucination and delusion aspects um, that are chronic, but um, don't necessarily represent a significant functioning limitation of overall functioning. So, and I think it's not a diagnosis I've necessarily seen a lot of. I think there's a lot of, as is the case with personality disorders in general. I think there are often a lot of other factors uh, related to a client that are not fully explored before we assign personality disorders. But that's a conversation for another lecture. But that's just the that's the basic framework of schizotypal personality disorder as defined by the DSM.